Hi, everyone. We're back again this week for another presentation on the use cases of Partisia Blockchain and MPC technology in our Solutions Spotlight series. I'd like to present to you once again Bruce, our Head of Developer Relationships, who will be making a presentation on. Bruce, over to you.
Hey, Tiago, and always good to see you again. Hello from Denmark, Aarhus, Denmark, which is where I am for the next 3 weeks. This is where our Partisia office is located, where all the technology happens. I'm here with my Partisia mug with some coffee and excited to talk to you about private settlement. So I think last week we talked about private auctions and how we can bring integrity back to the bidding process as a result of us privatizing the bids themselves. Today, we're going to be talking about what happens afterwards, after a bidding occurs or any kind of a settlement, and why there's an importance of ensuring that the blockchain also has a level of privacy in order for us to build trust between systems that are providing settlements. So yeah, really excited to talk to you about that.
I have a quick question. So there are other blockchains that already do privacy transactions. Is it the same thing?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. So there are a lot of privacy labeled blockchains out there. I think Monero is probably the most famous one, where they're anonymizing the transactions, which is very different than privatizing transactions. Privatizing to me really is about being able to build trust. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, I think, next week when we talk about data sharing through multi-party computation. But at a very high level, in my opinion, in order for anybody, any kind of a relationship, in order for you to be able to build trust, you can't be anonymous. If you're anonymous, you're not going to be able to build trust. So as an example, if you're, on an online dating app, right? And you look at a profile and there's no picture of that person, 99% of the people will swipe left and, they're not interested in meeting somebody if they're not willing to be some level, you have some level of transparency. So it's just a really quick example of how, in order for you to be able to build trust, you have to have a level of transparency. And being anonymous means that you're not going to be able to build trust, and you're really trying to hide something, just overall, for whatever reason. And it may be legitimate. Hiding it may be legitimate, but it does not help in establishing trust. So yes, I think that's the difference. Anonymous doesn't help you to build trust. It has its use cases, but it doesn't help build trust. Privacy is a way for you to be able to still be able to build trust.
So in a sense, one can say that Partisia allows for programmable privacy rather than flat out 100% privacy.
I think so. And going back to like even transparency, and we talked about this a few times in our other calls. If you have full transparency, it also doesn't build trust either, right? And so you can kind of think of it as the way I kind of like to think about the blockchain, right? And it's fully transparent system is, if you think about a credit card, would you be able to trust a credit card company that says, hey, listen, I'm going to make every single transaction that you make with your credit card number be transparent to the world? Would you trust that company? I'm not sure, right?
I would definitely not.
Right. But that's what happens in the blockchain space, right? Granted that a wallet is not tied to your name directly, but even still, going back to that credit card, it's the same situation. A credit card number may not be tied to you directly, but as soon as you find out, who that credit card number belongs to, you've basically broadcasted out to the entire world what it is that you've purchased. And I think that's a good analogy of what the blockchain industry potentially could represent, right? And so there's always like different comments about it. Well, you could create multiple, different wallets. You can transfer from one wallet to another, and sure, you can do that. And there are what I'll call like Fuji ways, right? That you can try to obfuscate, who you are and maintain certain level of
Yes,
privacy.
but 5 years or 10 years from now, you interact one wallet with another, and all of a sudden, that tree of transactions get immediately exposed, rolling back many, many years. And then there's also the argument that I find endearing that, oh, I don't have anything to hide, so everything should be transparent. Isn't that as if so? I immediately tell them, okay, so let's go to the next ATM and please show me how much money you have in your bank account. And they go, see, that is privacy. It's not anonymity. It's private. It's a fundamental human right.
Yes, yes, I absolutely agree with you. And there are things that people can do to use your transparency against you. And we actually reviewed that last week, didn't we? We talked about the issue that you run into when you have too much transparency in the system and how people can take advantage of you through the front running system in DeFi, right? So as an example, yeah, I have nothing to hide. Let me show you a bank account number. Okay, now you're exposing your private data that could result in other people who may want to take advantage of you. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. Privacy truly needs to be a human right. And it is also a key component, I think, in being able to establish trust between any kind of entity. So great points.
So going back to private settlement, how does this all tie in?
Yeah, so we mentioned a little bit about the fact that privacy is a integral part in our existing infrastructure. So we talked a little bit about the credit card situation, right? Where you want to be able to privatize the purchases that you make in your credit cards or any kind of settlement, but there has to be a level of privacy. And in the blockchain space right now, for the most part, it is very difficult, if not impossible, to maintain privacy. And so there's a lot of challenges that I think companies are beginning to see a lot of challenges, and being able to find a solution in the blockchain industry that provides both the balance of transparency and privacy. And I think we're going to go into one of the examples in our slides.
All right, let's jump straight into it then.
Sounds great. Great. So let's talk a little bit about enabling privatized settlements in the blockchain space, right? And so we talked a little bit about the fact that the current industry standard that we use has a level of privacy built in. The credit card being a really good example, but you can see it in any other kind of an example, whether it's a bidding system or it's your bank account information, even your school records. There's a level of privacy in there, and the grades that you got, you can't see that. Medical records, whatever it is, any kind of record system in a ledger, there's a level of privacy. And the traditional system, since the 1340s, which is when the initial example of a double bookkeeping system was ever recorded, we've always had this record system where you have a centralized ledger, which is controlled by a particular entity, which was recording both the in and the out of that particular transaction, right? In the traditional ledger system, which is continuously used today, right now it is a centralized trust. You have a particular entity that's controlling that ledger usually, and there's like audit systems here and there, but just overall there's a centralized system that controls that ledger. Generally, at a high level, you can kind of think of that as a single point of failure. There is privacy of personal data, where the centralized authority will provide that level of privacy, right? But again, it's a single point of failure. If that particular protection that an entity is providing fails, and we've seen that happen quite often these days with all the different hacks, the privacy is gone, right? There is no transparency in the system because it's almost all private, and it's been around for for quite a long time. It's still in use today. And then you fast forward to Bitcoin in 2008, and it was created because of the financial problems that has occurred during that time. Bitcoin was created or was presented, and it had a tremendous amount of success, I would say, and created a brand new industry, so to speak, which is incredible. But ultimately, in the end, I think neither system fully solves the problem of trust, where you really need a balance of privacy and transparency. And so Partisia is combining the technology of multi-party computation into a transparent blockchain ledger system. And you really get the best of both worlds, I think. Number one, it is decentralized and trustless. There is no single point of control or a central authority that controls the ledger. So there is no single point of failure. It is not a fully transparent system. We have that concept of unified public and private smart contracts. It is a customizable privacy. So it fits into any kind of potential solution that a ecosystem will want to create. So as I said, it's a blend of privacy and transparency. And I think not a lot of people know this, but it is a mature technology. Multi-party computation has been around since the 1980s. So over 40 years of development that allow for somebody to be able to trust the technology. It's been around for a long time. In fact, Partisia itself has been around since the 2008, where we provided multi-party computational services to private organizations, whether it's corporations, NGOs, governments have used it. And I think in our previous sessions, we mentioned the fact that if you go to Wikipedia, our name is there on multi-party computation, right, as the first ever large-scale MPC use recorded. Right, so the blockchain technology, while it's new, what we did was we layered on top of that blockchain technology a different type of a technology called multi-party computation, which has already been tested and is mature, and we layered that on top to provide this to the rest of the world.
I myself, when joining the Partisia team, Partisia's blockchain team, I did my homework on what MPC was, and I was just astonished. I had never heard of MPC, and I never really understood how deep an impact it has on society today, even without blockchain, even before blockchain, and how tricky the word privacy is. Because the way that you do privacy is a complete deal breaker, especially for large institutions and, like you mentioned, NGOs and even for some basic dApps. I mean, we spoke about front running and what how the blockchain space can benefit from multi-party computation, but it's really when you go back to basics and you think about, okay, so why was this technology? Why is it what problems is it solving at a most basic layer? And it's beautiful that we see this happening to blockchain. Like Bitcoin is the first iteration, right? It's the genesis of the blockchain industry, and now comes Partisia that fixes one of the most fundamental complexities of building privacy on chain. and bringing it
Yeah.
to the masses.
Yeah. So I think you said a key word there, like the fundamental problem that we have, and this fundamental problem of trust has been around since the beginning of humanity, I think, right?
Exactly. And
And
sorry, and just to interrupt you, because again, you use the word trust. And I remember when I first discovered Bitcoin, it was being pitched as people don't need to trust each other to interact.
ooh,
All of us. Why? Because transactions can't be reversed. That was the logic,
mm,
right? Because transactions cannot be reversed. You cannot double spend. So if you can, you don't need to know who the person is on the other side of the planet. As soon as you receive that transaction, after 6 confirmations, it's settled. So all of a sudden, you don't need to trust because no one is able to call up the bank and say, "Hey, my credit card was stolen. Can you please, block the transactions for the past 24, 48 hours?" But and I do understand it, but in reality, what you explain is absolutely true. Bitcoin does not bring trust, and that is exactly why it has not picked up as a payment system. Well, not considering all the other aspects, but it is actually because of the lack of privacy. And I remember that Hal Finney himself. I mean, the second week or something like that, he posted on Bitcoin Talk forum that, oh my God, we need to start thinking about the pseudo-anonymous nature of Bitcoin and how
mm,
to fix it. So Hal Finney
yeah,
himself understood how, yeah, Bitcoin is brilliant, but
yeah. I think I remember. I don't think I read that, but I do remember hearing something about that, and so, yeah, you're absolutely right. This is a um, fundamental problem that I think the distributed ledger system technology has been grappling with. And I think Partisia Blockchain could provide one level of solution to that. I'm sure there will be additional solutions that come by as we evolve in this wonderful field, a wonderful new revolution is what I'm kind of thinking. But the fact that we can provide that solution is very exciting to me, to be honest with you. So yeah, thanks for that.
yeah, there's so many considerations. I mean, we are constantly trying to hack the legacy system, quote unquote, the legacy system, to allow for blockchain when all of a sudden we have a blockchain that can cater to regulatory compliance,
Yeah,
which
that's the
is,
other thing.
yeah, which is beautiful. And anyway, sorry, let's move forward.
No, this is great conversation. First of all, I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, so let's move forward. Um, so we talked a little bit about the transparency issue, and this is just an example of a potential blockchain-based settlement system of perhaps it's a payment gateway uh, to merchants or phone companies, utilities, et cetera, et cetera. And again, the full history of everybody's transactions since Genesis is recorded on the chain. And while the transaction source and destination addresses are not, uh, not directly tied to a particular person, as soon as you find out who that person is, the entire history of that transaction is now, visible, right? But not only that, when we talk about the transaction history as well from a settlement perspective, it's not just that you know how much things were paid, you may actually know what they purchased it for, which makes it even worse, right? Whether it was purchasing groceries, phone bills, perhaps it was a new NFT marketplace that you used to purchase a house and for how much it was. There are so many different types of settlements that are occurring in the blockchain space, and that the instant you know the address of somebody, then the entire history of your purchasing for that particular chain is now known to the public. And well, I'm not comfortable with it. Uh, and I'm sure a lot of people will not be either. So as mentioned in the slide, all transaction history is visible since Genesis. Um, Anonymity will be lost as blockchain settlements become more prevalent and integrated into society, and the centralized settlement platform already has your info now, right? So as an example, a centralized settlement platform, which relies on a blockchain technology that does KYC, well, it goes right back into the centralized nature, right? They have your information already. And so a blockchain-based settlement system with some level of a privacy, one of them could be programmable MPC, and we've spoken about it a few times before in various different weeks. We're able to obfuscate the various different input values into the blockchain, but still be able to compute on that data, right? Computational analysis of the private data is possible. You can add governance layer for role-based access. Maybe you want your system so that a particular group of people can have access to the secret input, right? Whether it's because of regulatory reasons, perhaps it's some sort of an investigation, for audit trails, et cetera, et cetera. There may be reasons why you want to put some level of a governance around some of these data. And again, now you've created a mix of both public and private information. It's not all anonymous. There are things that you want to make public. So you get a really good balance of a public and private information in this example. So we talked a little bit about why is this so important? And I think one of our partnership that we have is with the International Community of Red Cross, which was a very big signing for us. And this really explains, I think, the importance of why privatizing some of these transactions is actually critical in many cases. So for those who are not familiar with the project that we're working with, International Community of Red Cross has been looking for a way to distribute relief funds through a blockchain system. They've actually been looking at this for a while, and they've investigated various different blockchains. And none of the blockchain could solve the problem of having privacy. If your transaction is visible on the chain and your identity is perhaps potentially known, then it could really mean life or death. So ICRC actually had this as a critical or a top requirement, and they've been searching for a while, and they finally came to us, and we were able to help solve the problem of ensuring privacy inside the transactions that are in the chain. So in this particular example, you can see that the ICRC country, this is going to need some heavy editing.
There you go.
So you can see in this example that ICRC deposits a particular amount of token to Alice, right? And inside this contract is actually very private. So ICRC, while they are KYCing the users, and they're saying that, okay, I'm going to deposit 100 tokens to Alice, ICRC themselves do not know what the address, the wallet address of Alice is. They've actually privatized it because even ICRC said, we don't want to know. We don't want to know what happens after we send this money to Alice. In fact, we don't even want to know the wallet address. And this means that this wallet address, while the money is going to a particular wallet address, it's anonymous, right? And so there is no way for them to be able to tie that wallet address back to Alice.
Quite literally, it mimics real cash money flow, right? Because you send cash, and as soon as you let go, and you part your ways, then there is no way of telling where that money goes or is used for, and you have no traceability absolutely whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly. So there is no traceability in regards to what they actually purchased it for. In fact, Red Cross themselves said that they do not want to know, and it was really a part of their requirements. So we spoke a little bit about ICRC, but we have a lot of other projects that have shown interest in being able to privatize settlements. So partners like Weezy, MuPay, and we spoke a little bit about eTrusted last week as a part of the auction system, but they're also using our private settlement system to be able to privatize some of the settlements that are happening inside the private tender system or the private tender platform that they're building. So in closing, I think I just want to summarize it by saying privacy again is an integral part in establishing trust. And by able to uh, provide the same level of privacy that is existing in the traditional systems and layering that and allowing the Web3 environment to have these levels of privacy is, is going to be a game changer in my view. And I'm really excited about what other projects that we'll be able to onboard, what other projects that are going to show interest in delivering a complete package, so to speak, right, to the public.
Absolutely. I'm terribly excited to be part of this community so early on and see it grow. This, along with the bring your own coin model, is when the industry gets wind of what we're creating here, it's going to send shockwaves of innovation left and right, and it's going to be beautiful. Anyway, so in closing, yeah, for anyone out there who is watching us for the first time, come talk to us. Come join the community. Go to our website, or we'll post the links below to our Telegram chat, to our Discord, where we'll be more than happy to take this conversation forward. And yeah, we're looking for builders of all types everywhere in the world. So come on, come meet us. You can ping me, Tiago, or Bunga. Bruce goes by Bunga in the community channels, or just reach out to any of our moderators and ask them to put us in touch. So thank you very much, guys, and see you next week, I guess.
Hey, guys.
Bye.